All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Product Hours for Office Hours for August 27th, 2025. I'm here with the RMM All-Star Squad. We've got Amit, Jason, and Murray, and we've got an exciting agenda for today, which we will get to right now. So as usual, we'll go through typical products office hours for those of you who are new, who haven't been with us before, give you a quick overview of what we're trying to do with these sessions. A few housekeeping notes based on some of the previous sessions we've done. Just wanted to go through a few administrative aspects that'll be questions that some of you might have, especially if you haven't been in the sessions before. Then Amit will do a overview of the new device service, and then we'll have our Ask Me Anything, where you can ask the RMM All-Stars on the call here anything you want, preferably about RMM, because then we can guarantee that they can answer it. And of course, we'll wrap up today with a CTA to register for the next session. So what are product office hours? For those of you who've been coming, it's a chance for our team, the product team, to interface directly with you, our partners, and to demonstrate new functionality, new features, standard use cases, and best practices across all of our products and services. We've been focused on RMM to date for the last 4 sessions because we've sort of been replicating the RMM Masterclass series that we did previously. But as you'll see shortly with the next maybe slide or next few slides, the September schedule will broaden to include things like PSA, Bright Gauge, and as we go forward, we'll be doing sessions on all types of different products and services. And the goal is every time to do 1 or 2 demos and to take a lot of questions from you, the partners, and for those of you who have been on the previous sessions, every session we get more and more questions and we give you more and more answers. So it's great to see all of that participation. So please keep it up. And I'll have a QR code for it, but you can also find all of the content on a playlist on ConnectWise's YouTube channel. And we aim to typically have the content from the session on YouTube by the end of the week. So you can also catch it there, or you can tell other people to go catch the content there if they miss the session. And so I just went through YouTube there, so you know that. You also get recordings by registering for the session. So you will get an automated email if you're registered for the session following the session so that you can view the content on demand. That usually arrives within 28 to 48 hours, but it comes, and even if you don't attend the session, you get the recording. Similarly, as I noted, the rolling weekly calendar, the schedule is on the university calendar, and we try to update those 4 weeks out. We're a little behind, but all of the links will also be going up for September today. And on the Q&A, as we ask in every session, please use the Q&A, not the chat feature. All questions will either be addressed by the team here in the session, or any that we can't get to because we have so many, we do follow up afterwards directly by email to answer your question. So any question, every question will get answered. And last but not least, technical troubleshooting. We have had a few partners. Oh, I don't know where the slide went, so I'll go back there. We have had a few partners who've had technical issues. We did consult the GoToWebinar gods, and all the settings and configurations are optimal on our side. What can happen is there can be a few technical issues on your side, and I'll talk through what those might be if you can't see the presenter screen. I am presenting a screen right now, and so if you can't see these slides, I'll quickly talk through them and also put your hand up in the Q&A and say, can't see, and I'll send you the troubleshooting notes, because you obviously won't be able to see the slide with the troubleshooting notes that I'm going to be sharing in a couple minutes. It's quite a catch-22, isn't it? Also, here's a sexy QR code that Amit taught me how to make. Thank you, Amit, for all the product office hour sessions that are on YouTube. As you'll note, it's in brand colors and with a logo. I'm very proud of this. So please get that URL if you want to follow up on YouTube. And then here's the upcoming schedule. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it'll be in the ConnectWise University, but high level, all those registration links are live. So you can click on them straight from the presentation. Next week, we'll be having projects in PSA powered by ASIO, focusing on creating new projects. Then on the 17th, we'll do a follow-up session around scheduling products. So the PSA team will be joining us for those. We'll be back with RMM on September the 10th, and then we'll close the month with a couple topics, one session from ByteGauge around reporting, both in terms of automating client reports and upcoming new features in ASIO. So a lot of exciting stuff coming in September. And you can actually sign up right here for the next session. There's another sexy QR code as instructed by Amit. If you want to sign up for that, go ahead now. And just before I hand it off to the RMM All-Stars for troubleshooting, I'm going to quickly read this out because, as I said, anyone who's having the experience of not being able to see my screen won't be able to see my screen. So it's preferable to use the GoToWebinar app over the website. If you are going to use the website, please use a supported browser, either Chrome or Edge. Try reloading your web browser. That usually fixes 99% of cases. It's just like smashing the TV when it's fuzzy. If you continue to have issues, clear your browser cache or even try incognito mode. And then, especially on a Mac, ensure that permissions are granted for screen recording and camera mic. If you don't have those permissions set, please do so and then restart the browser or the application. And then last, just typical what everyone always says, try switching devices or networks if the issues persist. I'm also going to copy and paste those for anyone who puts in the Q&A that they're continuing to experience issues. So that's it with the boring administration. Amit, I'll stop sharing and hand it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew, for that. Let me quickly try to share my screen. Give me 1 second. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen now.
You're good, Amit.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. All right. So here we are with our brand new devices page. And I'm sure everybody over here on this call would have been, using the existing devices page. That looks pretty different than what I'm demonstrating here right now. This is something that we are coming up with a release pretty soon, available for almost all partners as a limited availability. Now, there are a couple of improvements that we have been doing it over here, is based on the partner feedback. The existing devices page has pretty much locked down fields and functions that you can do. What we are trying to improve with this is give more flexibility and the control back to the partners on how and what they would like to see and define it on the screen. So starting very quickly, the left columns over here for the name, friendly name, and status, these are kind of static. You can route and move those columns as you would like. You can move them by just dragging and dropping it here. But essentially, if you scroll horizontally, there are more fields going to be available. Existing devices page, if you see, there are tabs, and sometimes those tabs really don't work as so. We are coming up with an option for you to define your own view, pretty similar to the data views that you've been using it in on the Automate and other software tools that you would be using. So let's quickly dive into that area. Here at the top, you see there's the default view. The default view essentially sets the out-of-the-box version that ConnectWise is going to offer. But there's a button in here that says Create New View that opens this modal pop-up. The standard fields would be available here on the left, and here are all the fields that you can essentially pick it up to choose on that particular grid. But before we get into the grid part, here at the very top, let's start with this. So I'm going to set something name over here as a demo test, for example. You can define what should be the row height for each of the sections that we've been adding. And now you can start adding fields that makes a real important sense for you. You would like to see them on the screen. So as you see, I'm starting to add items. The number over here keeps increasing. And I'm going to say I need DOS language as well. You can further go down in here. And in case if you find that there are a lot of fields, we have these drop downs at the very top. It says categories. Right now we have the company site. The company inside is essentially going to bring in the company name and the site name. But asset, it's going to have multiple categories put up over here. So if I say motherboard, you're going to see all the fields that are available for motherboard, or if I can say I want to see it for the BIOS, you're going to see all fields that's available for BIOS. You can start picking and choosing things that you needed, and the list on the right, on the left hand side here, keeps increasing to the count of fields that you have selected. Along with that, you can also apply specific filters that you need. So there's no limit to the number of filters that you can apply, and whatever you are going to be selecting here, you are essentially saving it as a part of your view, and the system always sets and updates the grid accordingly. There are more options here at the bottom, which is the sorting things. You can sort things out and say if I would like to sort that by the company name, and I need that in the ascending order. As soon as I'm going to hit the save button, the new grid fields and functions that I selected, that gets updated. So if you see here at the top, it's now the demo test. It doesn't show the default one that I've selected. The row height automatically got adjusted. The additional fields that I selected would start appearing on the UI in here. And there's no limit to creating views. You can create as many views as you would like, and you can always swap between the views. Again, we will apply all the filters, all the sorting functionality, the columns that you have selected, that gets applied. Now, one good thing about this is, let's say if I'm on the demo test, I applied all the additional filters and stuff. I can now refresh the grid to show the additional content because, the devices, let's say the thing that I can see right in front of me is my statuses. The statuses for these devices could possibly turn from an online to an offline. Back in the days, you need to refresh the whole browser, but now you can just click the button to refresh it, and all the filters. Let's say if I apply a filter with, let's say, uh, company name. Let me pick the company name, and I'm gonna say it contains, and I'm gonna say agent. So uh, again, with our current devices grid, you could only see the the company names and site names in the dropdown. You did not have these additional operators that you can see here. So we have expanded the operators function for the filters as well. And this is for the string, so it is based on the type of the field that is being selected by the user. So if I would change to something like last online here, right? So if I pick last online, it's a date field. So now I get all the operators that you can do with the date field. So the things that you apply, the system would apply those filters out, and the data information would be populated in front of you. So let me just try to swap on to uh, another view that I just created with the additional fields. The reason for that is because I am looking out for some sort of a number field. So number of processor, it is going to be an integer value. Automatically, you'll see the operators are changing. You're going to see the mathematical operators greater than, less than, equals to, all of these options are going to come in. And again, as I said, you can add as many filters as you would like. You can change the type. So if you're going to say this or this or this, the system will essentially apply those and show that information on the UI. You can also remove columns even after you've created a view. So I don't want to see the name and the site name for the transaction or the data that I'm referring to. You can always filter that out. We have also pulled in an export functionality where whatever fields, whatever data, whatever filterings are applied, and you're going to hit this export button, it's going to extract this information into a CSV file. So it's easier. Again, I'm trying to compare with what's available. It will give you the static data. Here, you're essentially getting the more dynamic version of the data. Again, I can move columns. As you can see, ASIO agent version, I'm moving it. I'm pretty free to do those changes as well. Now, search also comes along with that. If I'm going to say I'm looking out for 900, 900, the system will automatically start filtering and showcasing me the values or fields that I'm applying over here. If I'm going to say RMM, all the fields with the RMM name shows up right in front of you. It's pretty immediate responses the system is providing to show and act on that data. Again, there are hyperlinks also being created for companies and sites. You can always right click and say open a new tab. It's directly going to jump you to that particular company without having to, move between screens and using the left navigation menu. It just gets you to the right spot where you need to be. So I'm right now on a QA environment, just because that is an item that we are going to be quickly releasing it out. Now, another couple of things that we heard from partners was the existing devices page was pretty limited. It won't allow you to do actions on more than 5 devices. We're essentially trying to open that up pretty much with that. So if I'm going to start selecting for select all, it's going to show, do you want to see the first 100 fields? Because that's the pagination thing that you see on the right-hand side bottom corner. I've selected only 100 devices, or I would like to select all devices, and it returns me how many fields are available over here. And then I have this little action button in here, which we're still working on it, but that essentially opens up all your manage and automations and actions and responses that you've got from those devices. You can see at the very top, you're giving a feedback here still that there are 542 devices on which whatever actions you have selected is going to get applied to. Uh, these are the screens, but this is where we are going to bring in the option to list down all the scripts that you have created. The user has the permissions for that, and manage actions in terms of deploying the network probe, deploying or sending out a communicator message, deploying the scanning tool, the discovery tool. All of that gets compiled and pulled in together for that information. Once you unselect it, all your values and information is going to be present. Now, one last thing, if I'm going to refresh the page, again, in the old screens that we have for the devices page, all the applied filters, all the applied configurations gets reset. But here, if you see the new retail detailed demo, the view that I had created, the system retains that particular view and pulls that information back for that user. So even if you are doing a soft refresh just for the grid, or you're trying to do a full hard refresh of the browser, in both the cases, the data kind of retains based on the user access and permission. One last thing, unless I covered it, but the view thing here, we are essentially trying to bring in more data points. Currently, the team is working on bringing in the patching, the vulnerability data, the remote access buttons, the alerting information in here. So the fields and the functions that you see here, that's going to get expanded. We are targeting to add hundreds of fields, including custom fields. So essentially, custom fields are going to be here as well, and that's the whole purpose of adding out these category drop downs for the user, so they can choose any field and see that information on the screen. Again, all these fields are going to be permission driven. So let's say if you have a user, a limited user who doesn't have access to permissions for patching, uh, patching fields would not be available for that user while selecting this information. So I know I spoke a lot about this. I'll take a quick pause because we also need to get into the Q&A side of it. So any questions, Jason, that you see regarding this devices screen?
There are several. I think we'll just we can get to them for the Q&A. But I want to maybe just add a couple of points. Thank you for going through a demo of this. This is sitting in our QA environment. A couple of questions that have been around. When is this coming out? We are expecting to have this out here later this fall. As Amit showed, we still have some additional data points that we're looking to add in, whether those are custom fields or vendor-defined fields. As well as data points from some other portions of the overall platform. So a good example there might be vulnerability information coming from some of the security dashboard items. So there's a bit of work still to do to aggregate all of this data into a performant microservice, as well as all of the actions piece. So there's definitely some work that we need to complete before we send this out, but we're targeting to do that here later this fall. That said, we are looking for additional partners to be a part of the early access for this, and we'll be putting some announcements on how to join early access, just like we did last week with third-party patch. If you are interested in seeing the early access or being part of the early access for this, we're looking for about 100 partners to start off with. Please go ahead and throw your email into the Q&A, and that way we can capture it, and then we might send out a link to how to sign up to that later for anybody who throws their email in here. This is one other thing I'd just add, and then we'll get to the big Q&A, is just because there were a couple of similar questions. Talked about this in relation to the release of other functions like third-party patch. Different than the way that traditional PSA or traditional automate functions where we have single releases, periodic single releases, everything in ASIO, every microservice is able to release slightly on its own cadence. And so technically with ASIO, we're usually releasing one or two items nearly every day between the security teams, the PSA and ASIO teams, the RMM teams, and security. I already said security. General platform functions, we have nearly a release or two every day. So there isn't a big bang release for RMM. We do announcements a little bit more consolidated, but the releases come out kind of on a rolling basis. This is the benefit of being in a more modern multi-service architecture that we have within ASIO. So with that, I think we ought to open it up to some questions, Amit, and I suggest maybe what we do is we go ahead and leave this page up, but also just in case one of those questions is an easy thing for us to just quickly demonstrate with a different portion of the console.
Sure.
So let's talk. I'm going to kind of start off and read a few of them out. You addressed already, talked a little bit about some of the fields that are coming through this, custom fields, vendor-defined fields, security fields. Maybe you can give us an idea of what the release cadence is for that. Are those coming after GA? Are those coming with GA? How will we be releasing out some of the additional field options? And then also we can talk a little bit about the limitation of number of fields, because somebody mentioned on here they can see blank of 30, the limitation for number of fields in any view.
Right, great question. So first of all, we are targeting to bring the parity with what is available on the existing devices page, and the custom fields and the vendor integration fields, they are going to follow on, but it should be still within like mid Q4 is what we have been targeting to complete the custom fields and vendor fields. Regarding the number, the 30 is something that we are going to start with. Absolutely, it's a platform, as Jason mentioned, it's a microservices-driven function. We should be able to scale and increase that number, but we would like to start with the like a baseline number of 30 fields, and then expand that as we are looking for. But that number was something that we heard from multiple partners in different interview sessions, some feedback sessions. They felt like 30 was an acceptable number, but happy to hear more if there are specific use cases to add more data over there for populating on the grid at the same time.
All right, great. A couple of other follow-up questions on the grid. People noticed some of the operators like greater than, less than. Will we be allowing those operators for groups and dynamic groups?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, yes, that's going to be the case. So while we are working on bringing and consolidating multiple data points for the devices grid, we also found the use cases. We heard that from partners. I'm pretty sure some of you who are asking these questions, we have taken those feedback points from your conversations as well. So essentially, all this data is getting back into one single store. So the operators within the devices page that you see for fields are essentially going to be available on the device groups as well. In fact, I would say there will be more fields available in the device group than what you see on the devices grid, because there will be certain things that you don't want to see it on the UI, but that could be a part of your criteria builders to put them consolidated into a group. So good question, but the answer is yes.
How about filtering based on either groups or policies is another question. Well, two questions I'm combining. Filtering based on groups and policies.
Right. Groups is something that we have it today on the devices page. So absolutely, that is something that we are looking and exploring and how to bring that information in here as well. So it will be an extra filter option available for the users. Regarding policies, yeah, we need to look into it because policies are technically just the configurations. They apparently apply to a policy group, and those policy groups are nothing but behind the scenes the device group. So essentially it will fulfill that, but if there are specific use cases with policies, I would like to get a little more details on that and further discuss that with our teams.
All right, great. Another question. This is also, Murray, feel free to jump in on this too. There's a couple of questions, and I'm going to try to summarize a few of them together related to saving the various views. Can you set one of those views as a, well, first start with, can you set one of those views as your default?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that one, as part of setting up the custom view, it really becomes the last view you set it to becomes your default view. So if you log out and you had a view saved from before, when you log in again, that'll be your default view going forward. And just while I'm on the topic of views, there's a couple questions around sharing views. So right now, as part of the early access and into GA, a view is really specific to the user for now. But yeah, the idea of sharing views across different users or different roles has come up as an important addition to this. We'll be looking at that to roll that out subsequent to our GA release.
All right, great. Thank you. One more question, and that is when you navigate away from this page, I think you kind of answered, when you navigate away from this page and you come back, it's like come back to the last view you were on. What happens if
Right.
you created a custom filter and you don't save that filter as a view, you just created a custom filter and you navigate to another page and then come back? Do you lose that filter? You do today, unfortunately, with our current devices page.
That one should be, actually, I'm going to have to go and test that particular scenario. I don't know if you know the top of your head, Amit, but I believe you should be keeping the filters that are on the grid, even across refreshes. So you should be able to navigate away and come back, but let me confirm that one and get back to the group.
All right, we've only got a couple more minutes. We've got a lot of questions or so on this grid, but I just to maybe switch gears a little bit, I'm going to take a question that's not on this grid for a minute. Or I had it and it just disappeared for me. It was about creating and cloning a VM. I'm just trying to find the question. A partner is looking at, they're cloning VMs, and they want to make sure that those VMs, as they are cloned, up is separate and managed devices. Are there steps or so that somebody needs to take when they're cloning a VM but wish it to be seen as a separate device or instance that's potentially sharing the same serial number? So maybe we can talk a little bit about fingerprinting and best practices for VM management.
Sure, that's a great question as well. So essentially, ASIO works pretty. I won't call it exactly how the Microsoft registers operating systems or Office products. Essentially, we capture the image information for the endpoint, which includes MAC address, serial numbers for disk drives, and the disk information. It's essentially the hardware thumbprint that we created and maintained it on the back end. As long as you're not creating any sort of an identical clone. What I mean by identical clone is every attribute on that VM is identically same, which also poses a lot of problems. But essentially, if the the hardware is changed, you clone the device, the MAC address, the serial number, the references, the virtual identifiers for those devices are different, the system automatically goes through a deduplication process, and that new device would also reflect on the UI on the devices page as a separate row item. And that applies to every time you create the dedupe process. Every time you create a new clone, the system goes through a dedupe. It could essentially also happen if you make a significant hardware change on the machine. like similar to you get those pop-up notifications from Microsoft that you need to reactivate. Similar, the system goes through the deduplication process because the thumbprint information that it retained and maintained got significantly changed, but it doesn't change when you just make a minor references, like you just added a thumb drive or changed the network or replace the MAC address. It doesn't forcefully go through a dedupe process.
All right, and we'll do one quick last question, and I'll go ahead and take this one. There's a question about could somebody use a policy for installing an application and a dynamic group to see if devices have that installed, and then removing the device from that group? And I'll say that that is absolutely a possible method, but that's not the best practice method for RMM. It's something that we do see in say Automate. Is that kind of the method that's used in Automate? For RMM, usually the best practice is to use a application monitor. So an application monitor, you're looking to see if an application is installed. If it's not, then you can run an action to install that application. That way, great to have that either devices or companies or sites have that monitor applied to them, everything that should have that application. But it's not a one-time activity of this device should have an application. So that gets removed by using a monitor. The monitor will then cause an automated action to put that application back. So yes, the way that you had described it in your question is possible, but generally the best practice is to rely on monitors for applications that should be always on a device. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining today. There's a ton of questions on this. As Andrew said, we'll export those questions and follow up on some of the ones we were not able to get to, some around third-party patching from last session. And Amit, thank you for joining. I know it's a holiday today, and you are at your relative's house, so thank you for taking the time to spend with us. Murray, thanks for jumping on and getting introduced to office hours, and we will see everyone next week.
Thank you for having me. See you guys.